Your degree
Okay. My name is Billy Caldwell. I've been a geologist for 57 years. Graduated from TCU here in Fort Worth. As a geologist, or even prior to that, after going to TCU and other colleges, I wanted to know how old the Earth was. I wanted to know about dinosaurs. I really wanted to know how tall Adam was, what color hair he had, and all these things that I wanted to know. And so I researched those on my own, on the side. So through the years, as I finally got my master's at TCU, I started teaching at the junior college. Started teaching at Tarrant County Junior College, which today is Tarrant County College in Fort Worth, in 1971. And at that time, started taking the students on field trips to the Arbuckle Mountains and then down to Glen Rose. And once I was here in Glen Rose, and those times were, I'm trying to look at my notes here, in the 70s, 72, 73. But prior to that, we may want to put this and put it back in. In 1959, the oil business hit the skids, and I went into teaching in the public schools. And so then it continued to be rough. There were no jobs for geologists. Oil was $2.50 a barrel, and there was so much oil, we had a surplus. So I went into the stone business and started handling building stone for building that we would bring as a geologist. I could bring it from all over the United States. And one day in 1964-65, one of my stone suppliers from Glen Rose, his name was Bill Osborne, he came in with a pickup truck, and the back of the truck said, "I want to show you something." And the back of the truck was a piece of Glen Rose limestone. I could still see the fossils in it. It was about 4 foot by 4 foot, and it had a perfect human print in it. And I saw there was no differential weathering across and down in the track and up. It was the same weathering all the way across. There wasn't any indication of carving. It was a perfect looking print. And I said to Bill, "Where'd you get that?" And he said, "In the middle of the Paluxy River. It's been kind of slow, so we got out there with a cold chisel, and we spent a week cold chiseling this off." It was 4 to 6 inches thick, and so it weighed hundreds of pounds. And then he told me one day, well, I said, "That is a really miraculous thing." And I asked him one day what he's going to do with it. He said, "I've had an offer, I think, of $800 from a man in Houston." So I said, "Well, I sure would like to have a casting of that if you're going to sell it." And so he made me a concrete cast. And that original casting is here in the museum. The concrete one. It was pretty heavy. The human track, we didn't know what to make of it. So I'm going to take a drink.
Yeah. Now, what year was, did you see the Osborne? Did Bill Osborne show you the track?
About 64.
Okay, and then I guess the cast was made pretty soon after that.
Pretty soon after that, and Dr. Ball, after he found out about it, he spent a lot of time trying to track it. We heard it was on exhibit at the New York World's Fair in 1965.
Wow.
64 down, World's Fair, New York, 64.
64. We heard that. We lost the trail. I didn't have the $800 to buy it, but we do have a casting of it. And so, this is kind of a little scrambled, but when we came back in the early 70s here, and Mr. McFall took us down to his house, I had the students walk in those tracks, the human-like tracks. We always call them human-like tracks. And they would just walk in them perfect like that. Then in about 72, 73, a friend of mine, Jan Mercer, told me about Dr. Cecil Daugherty, who had found some human tracks in place in situ here. So we contacted him, and we came down here, and he took us to the tracks. I'd never seen them. I'd only seen the dinosaur tracks. They were perfect. They were over in this area, and between McFall and the park here. They were so perfect that it was unbelievable. Sometimes I'd bring them down, the water would be real deep, and we just had to kind of fill them. Other times the water was real low and we could see them. And there was 2 or 3 perfect tracks there. And then there was a ledge. And what happened was they were so perfect that people started making plaster of Paris castings of them. And one day we went down, somebody had made a mistake, and the plaster of Paris was still hanging on it and messed it up. But during the floods, when chunks of stone, as Bob Summers said, as big as Volkswagen, are carried down the creek, those disappeared on us, and also the carbonic acid in the rainwater ate those behind Emmett Falls up pretty badly, and they started getting worse and worse and worse to the point that they were hardly visible.
So now, do you remember working with, or did you? I can't remember. Did you say you went out with Cecil Doherty to see the track?
As he's the
Did we talk about that?
Yes, he's the first one to show me where the human tracks were.
Okay. Do you remember anything important or about some of the old timers, other old timers?
No, I wasn't an old timer down here, and actually, we came down when I was 12 years old and we go squirrel hunting and so forth, but I knew nothing about the tracks. But at Emmett McFall, when we went to his house, it was the most unusual house. I guess it's still over there. And he had some of the tracks that he had carved out during the Depression times, trying to sell them for survival around a tree. He's the one that, he and Cecil Doherty, the one that told me where they were. And then I'd take field trips every year until people at the college began to object. There was a time in the 70s when there was not objection, and then suddenly the world turned over in the 80s, I guess, and people started objecting, and people started listening to just a small amount of people.